Today, we welcome Lisa Erickson to the show. I'm your host, Brittany Starr. Lisa is an energy worker and a meditation teacher specializing in women's energetics, sexual trauma healing, and manifesting. She is the author of Chakra Empowerment for Women, published by Llewellyn Worldwide. Lisa is certified in mindfulness meditation, instruction, and trauma sensitivity, and has trained in a variety of energy healing and somatic modalities. She is a certified facilitator in Feeding Your Demons, created by Lama Sultram Alion, and a member of the Breathe Network, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting holistic healing and healers for sexual trauma survivors. For more information on Lisa's work, please visit the description box below, which will have her link, or go to enlightenedenergetics.com. Her book, entitled Chakra Empowerment for Women. This book focuses on accessible chakra energy work, activations any woman can use in their daily lives to pull forth the energies they need in the moment. It also covers women's energetics and sexual trauma healing chakra information. Women's energetics include cycles and phases of life, including menstruation, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause. Please welcome to the show, Lisa Erickson.
Conversations with indie authors.
So I know anybody that is within the spiritual community whatsoever, knows about Llewellyn books. And so how on earth, for all my authors out there, did you get involved with them?
Yeah. On the one hand, I was taken off the slush pile, and I received many, many no's before that from other publishers and earlier versions of the proposal from Llewellyn. I think this time what really maybe got me off the slush pile, it was partially timing. I've been doing work centered on sexual trauma survivors for 2 decades, right? But when I pitched this in 2018, we were in the midst of Me Too, and there was so much, maybe more publicity at the time. So it was partially about a hot button healing area where Llewellyn was like, oh, sexual trauma, this is so in the news right now. Let's do something around healing. That I think. Also, one of my main mentors, Cindy Dale, is for many years, one of their most successful authors. And she had agreed to write the foreword to the book for me. And I put that right in the cover letter. So that may have gotten it. Those two things maybe differentiated it. It's tough. Tough.
Yeah, that is a tough one to get into. So, but you have done self-publishing as well?
Yeah. So before Chakra Empowerment for Women, I had done a really kind of a PDF booklet, although I did eventually get it onto Amazon and other platforms that were 15 years ago. So early on, maybe in the self-publishing phase of things. And it was a reflection of the work that I was doing in women's workshops. So then Chakra Empowerment for Women, the book that Llewellyn published, was sort of a more mature, more expanded version of a lot of that same work that I had put in that earlier PDF. But I still get, for example, workshop attendees and private session clients who find that for free on various platforms, some of whom I have not even heard of because I put it out on, I'm blanking out now, one of the free distribution networks. It went out to a lot of places. So.
Okay. And you go over your, the very beginning. So let's start. Why on earth is this something that's interesting to you? And what's your background and how do you help people?
Yeah. So I am an energy worker and also a meditation teacher. And I also, at this point, train energy workers. And I also teach within a Tibetan Buddhist tradition. And that's kind of a separate thing. My work, my energy healing work is not Tibetan Buddhist, but it does inform my own personal path. So all
Mm.
of these things come together. But it really all began 36 years ago, I guess now, when I had first graduated from college and in fact was working in technology in New York City. And I was having a lot of stomach aches and headaches that the doctors eventually attributed to stress. Yeah. And at that time, you know, going to a meditation class or a yoga class was not that common, right? But someone recommended it and I tried it and it turned out to be a Kundalini and chakra based meditation class. And it just, first of all, it immediately helped. And second of all, it just made me aware of all these energies that I had, in fact, been sensing my whole life and had not had a language or training to understand. And I actually stayed in technology for many more years as an executive while I was doing, on my own spiritual path and doing energy healing training. And I didn't make the transition until um, I was in my 30s and had children, which now is 20 years ago. They're all heading to college. So it's now a long time ago itself. But yeah, and then my interest in women's energetics really built over my own personal interests and also experiences I had during my first pregnancy and women I was working with. So
So would you consider, how a lot of women when they're pregnant, do you consider they don't get treated all the time very well while pregnant or giving birth? Would you consider that still sexual trauma?
Mm. Well, it can be. It's certainly there is a whole category of medical trauma that occurs for pregnant women, and it occurs for other individuals if they're in an environment in which they're touched without their consent, or the different procedures are not explained to them, or they don't feel as if it's a consensual environment. And medical schools, some are getting better about emphasizing that, some are not. So, and to be fair, I've also had clients who have had that issue with other kinds of practitioners. So just general trauma sensitivity is an issue, I think, around all practitioners, whether it's specifically sexual trauma or not. To some extent, that is going to depend on the person and what they perceive as being sexual in nature, whether, in terms of the particular trauma that they're experiencing. Yeah, but it does happen for sure.
Well, here's the question then.
Yeah,
So someone that has gone through sexual trauma,
yeah,
because you were saying that you help women, I was talking about that in the intro, through that you you do women's energetics, including phases of life, including menstruation, pregnancy, postpartum, perimenopause, and menopause. So I guess
yeah.
my question would be, if you've had sexual trauma in the past, does that come out later during pregnancy, during menstruation, during menopause?
Yeah, it often does if someone has not had the opportunity to kind of address that sexual trauma on various levels and it's repressed in some way. For almost anyone who's experienced sexual trauma, especially very young, it defines your relationship to your body in ways that you may or may not be conscious of. And it often creates a kind of disconnect from the body. So then when you are in, it may then create a real negative feeling around your body, around things like menstruation. So it's difficult to actually process it as a natural experience. You could turn almost like you hate anything that reminds you of your body. That's not uncommon. And so then when someone becomes pregnant and you all of a sudden are in a situation where you have to visit a doctor or a midwife, monthly and towards the end weekly, and you need to sit in stirrups and you need to have your cervix checked, all of this can be highly triggering, highly triggering. So it's not unusual if someone has not had a chance to address their sexual trauma for all of that to be challenging. Then I think the other thing that can happen is that if someone was abused as a child, the prospect then of having a young child that you're then responsible for, there can be even more kind of anxiety and stress that builds up around being able to protect them from the bad things you experienced. And that can create a lot of anxiety around pending parenthood. So there often are a lot of intersections of emotional things and physical and energetic things that I'm working with someone who's pregnant, who's had sexual trauma. Yeah.
Okay. Sexual trauma seems to be, I think there is a huge misconception because I know growing up, my mom was afraid to have a girl. She didn't
Mhm.
want a girl child because, that's they get raped and molested, and you have to just sit there and take it because you're a woman. You're not allowed to speak up and say anything. And so, but boys get abused too.
Yes. Yes,
And,
they
and
do.
I'm like, that's very real. And so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's predators that are disgusting and going to do things. And so you have to teach your child and, how to go about that.
Yeah. How to really feel the right to affirm boundaries around their body, starting very young. Like, you don't have to let someone hug you, an uncle you don't like hug you when you're 3 years old if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Right? You can say, I don't feel like that right now. Thank you. And
Mhm.
teaching your child young that they have a right to define the boundaries around how their body's treated is really important for later on.
I agree. That's super important to me. I've also had a lot of people very angry with me because I will allow my child to say no to any
Yeah.
physical touch, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get to dictate to them when they want to be touched. Like, I wasn't allowed to cut my hair growing up, but my daughter, I'm like, it's your hair. So she's
Yeah.
had everything. She's had it bobbed all the way to not cutting her hair, and it's all the way down
Yeah.
her legs. So I'm like, it's yours though. That is your property, and that's what you need to feel comfortable with.
Yeah, and so important. And it's so interesting because a lot of what I work with women later on also is boundaries and energetic boundaries. And we do so often condition our children around it's your job to please adults,
Yeah.
right? And especially little girls. I mean, both boys and girls can receive this conditioning, but especially little girls. Be nice, be nice. And that can really backfire, right? It creates imprints of people pleasing. It creates imprints of an adult who doesn't feel they have the right to say when they don't like a particular energy or they don't like something that's going on. So you have to kind of undo some of that imprinting, which is also a kind of energy work, really, to reclaim the way you carry yourself and your energy. Yeah.
I actually completely agree with that. My feeling on that is, how on earth do we expect children to not be allowed to have any boundaries? Then suddenly they turn 18 and now they should just know it all without ever being taught
Exactly.
or having that practice ground. That, like, that's what our home environment should be, is a safe place in which to experiment and figure out who we are in the world, but and we have the security of coming back home, and this is our sacred safe space.
Yeah.
uh, I look at a lot of things differently. Like, my daughter is dating. I
Yeah.
didn't tell her who she could date. I didn't say she wasn't allowed to date. I'm like, you have to understand the implications of everything to go with it. I hope I've taught you enough about what love is supposed to look like, and what is acceptable or not. But you have the power. And if some boy doesn't accept no, or some girl, whoever you're dating, I will help them understand no.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But that's, she needs to know, or all my children need to know, I have their back no matter what. They're allowed to fail because failure is the path to success. You cannot learn how to do anything unless you fail. But
Yeah.
I had
I
the
couldn't agree
reason I
more.
had
Yeah.
what's that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I just think it can sometimes make it harder to parent, but you have to be able to handle that. Yeah, raising a headstrong kid is maybe a little bit harder some days when you just want them to do what you say, right? We all have days like that, but you're going to be glad for them when they're out there in the world that they have that. Yeah.
There are
Yeah.
so many times I'm happy for it. I've always told my children, because I know, completely opposite. You always do the opposite. I don't always do the opposite. I try to do what is logical and what makes sense. But I was raised in, well, the deep South, deep East Texas, and whatever any adult told me, I had to obey.
Yeah.
And that got me into a lot of really awful places.
Yes.
Like, I was told to do some horrible things, but I had to obey, or I would get in really bad trouble. I would get, spanked, and like, it would be a serious thing. I teach my children, I mean, it's a good idea to listen to me because I'm, thinking of your safety. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm thinking of your safety. And so I am the leader, regardless of what I want my position to be. But you don't have to listen to every adult. And I have a
Yeah.
lot of adults that don't like me because I don't enforce that every adult should be listened to, because that is super dangerous.
Yeah.
I
Well, that
was
is
molested.
what we know statistically. The majority of sexual abuse of minors occurs by people that they know.
Mhm.
people they know.
Yeah.
And they have been taught, this is the person, this is an authority figure.
Yeah.
And that often plays into it. And often sexual abusers use that, right? They use that as a control mechanism. Yeah.
Yes, that's
Obedience.
precisely it. Obedience. And so, yes, we have trouble with that sometimes. Like, well, both my husband and I were raised in very Christian families that, very much, I'm the authority, you just do what I say. And so, yes, it's hard sometimes to, you don't have to do what I say. What?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Especially when it's, a 16-year-old or an 11-year-old looking at you going, no, I'm not going
Yeah.
to do that. And
Yeah.
here's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
it does make things a lot more interesting. You have a lot more judgments from other people and a lot more anger because people do not like that children are allowed to have boundaries, is what I find over and over.
Exactly. And I think, it's sort of like our children become this extension of our own accomplishments and things like that. That's a whole piece of this too, that there's kind of a culturally right now, people get overinvested in their own kids' accomplishments, like their kids are an extension of them.
Mhm.
And so any kid who really is sort of goes against the grain is considered somehow aberrant or a problem. And there's a lot of implications of that. Boundaries and safety is one of them, but also just creative problem solving. Like if you just are prioritizing following along, you're not creating adults who know how to think outside the box and come up with new solutions for problems. And these are the things the world needs right now, right? So
Mhm.
these are the qualities needed. Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
And I've also been discovering, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have an unconscious belief due to my mom's trauma that she was conditioning me with. And now I have this weird subconscious belief that I don't agree with. And
Yeah.
now, oh my gosh, like I started doing energy work. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
can do things. But
Yeah, I do a
yeah.
lot of that kind of work. We take on sort of ancestral trauma. It can be from a parent. Sometimes it can
Mhm.
even be sort of family stories or things that we don't even remember that we picked up that we're carrying. And we're
Mhm.
carrying as, it creates our own imprints about ourselves and our beliefs about what's possible for us, what's inevitable, all those kinds of things. And bringing those into consciousness, they are stored in our energy body. So bringing them into consciousness is the first step to being able to letting them go and rewriting them, replacing them with the beliefs you want to have. So that's really amazing and testament to your resilience and self-awareness that you've come to this point, you
Well,
know?
thank you. And I think that's funny because, well, I had a um a daughter over a year ago, and I can still barely walk. I
Oh,
couldn't walk for the first 3 months, and
mm,
I've been in
tough
such
recovery.
excruciating, yeah, and I'm like, yes, oh yes, yes. So I'm like, I look at that and I interview a lot of people, and actually a lot of like trauma survivors that share their story because it's helpful.
Yeah,
And they're like, I don't understand why I'm called resilient. I'm pretty beat up. Like
yeah,
I'm like limping here, and people are like, "You're so resilient." And I'm
yeah.
like, "Yeah, I
But you're
understand that."
here doing this. So,
Yes,
to me, that's what it is. It's like still being engaging to with the world in the way that you want to. Um, doing this takes a lot of effort, right? To get on here and do podcast interviews and do all of this. Yeah.
yes, yeah, it does. Yeah, that's funny. It does take a lot. Actually, I'm pretty exhausted by the end of my recording days. I've had to lessen them down just because of that. But
Well, that's okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
someone told me chronic pain meant that you were in pain for 15 days out of the month. And I'm like, well, what happens if it's 30?
Yeah. Pain is the first thing that has to be tended to always. It's sort of that baseline. It's difficult when someone is in chronic pain because it dysregulates your whole system. Your system thinks it's in a kind of trauma response, right?
Mhm.
Your body's job is to try to not be in pain. So as soon as it's in pain,
Right.
it's like in high alert. Yeah. So
Because
I just
it's
hope
so
you're
important. These are important things that if someone contacts you and figures their stuff out and balances everything, they can live so much happier.
Yeah, exactly. And it's tools. And then it's when things happen that pull you back off balance, having the tools to self-care and recenter yourself, right? Yeah, finding that baseline is initial. And then as we go through life, there's always challenges. And then it's having those tools to know you can come back to centered and clear. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if your normal is peace, it's easier to come back to center.
Yeah. And if your nervous system knows how to hold that, your nervous system and your subtle body, really our physical body and our subtle body interact through the nervous system and our endocrine system. Those are the two traditional kind of intersections between our energy body and our physical body. So all of the stuff now in polyvagal theory and like how to create a default of calm and peace in your body, really, it is like it's that kind of thing has been taught in energy body traditions for a long time. And now it also sort of centers your energy and clears the central channel when your nervous system is centered and calm. It's all, all three levels: physical, neurological, uh, energetic.
Well, how often are you supposed to be clearing your energetic body?
Well, I think that for most people, it depends on the nature of your life, right? And really how abrasive it is, how demanding it is. But for most people, you could say that is what some sort of morning practice, whether it's meditation or yoga or time in nature or energy work, that you're sort of cleansing for the day. It is like your daily shower. And then how often during the day you need to turn to tools depends on what's pulling you off. If you're in a very abrasive environment and it's taking a lot out of you, you may need to energize, reaffirm your energetic boundaries and do tools like that. If you have emotions that are pulling you off, you may need to do some heart work or something like that. If you're feeling blocked, you may need to do your third eye. So that's one of the ways I really approach the energy work. There is the healing of the big issues in our life, right? Rewriting those imprints that are holding us back. That's the big work. But then there's also just in your day, learning how to activate a chakra when you need the energy of that particular chakra forward. So I think that's kind of a long and short answer. Like I recommend some sort of daily regimen to find your center. And then tools that work for you throughout your day when something is triggered or you're pulled off balance so that it doesn't sort of snowball into being really dysregulated by the end of your day. Then we don't sleep. Then that causes more problems. Like it sort of snowballs. So knowing during the day how to re-regulate.
Oh, that's interesting. Brian Johnson, he says it's so important to have a regular bedtime because your sleep is the most important thing that kind of
Sleep is
changes
everything.
everything.
Sleep is so important. I know. Yeah, and if you get to bedtime and you've been taken out from your day and so your nervous system is dysregulated, you don't sleep well, you just continue to have this cycle day after day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you're in a lot of pain, then you can't sleep.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why pain relief is number one. First thing someone has to deal with if they're in pain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what do you offer? So, but you offer courses and do you offer coaching?
Yeah, I do private sessions online. I do private distance healing sessions, and I do workshops, both on personal work for people, so boundaries, menopause, etc. A course tied to the book, and then I also now train practitioners that want to do work similar that I do with others. I also have a practitioner training course.
Nice. Okay. And they can all find that at enlightenenergetics.com.
Yes, exactly, and on
Okay.
Instagram and Facebook at Chakra Empowerment.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So, yeah, I will put those links in the description box below for anyone that wants to reach out to you. Are you very active online? So if people follow you, can we get some more information to learn more about?
Yeah, I'm pretty active. I haven't sort of got back. I took a break for the holidays and somehow I'm slow this January getting new posts up. But usually, yes, I am on Facebook and Instagram regularly. Yeah.
I think that makes sense. The holiday season makes
I
it
know.
very
I'm like, what's going on? It's mid-January and I can't get somehow this year's slow on, but hopefully soon.
I
Yeah.
understand that. But you do go on a lot of other podcasts as well.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking on different topics.
That yes, you have many different topics. I was talking about that because you also, this is not just sexual trauma healing, you
Yeah.
also do manifesting and talking about, like, that's a huge topic that
Yeah.
we could have one episode just about that alone.
Absolutely. Everyone, and especially this time of year going into the new year, really, how do I align my energy body to really be that vibrationally representing what I want more of in my life, right? Or
Yeah.
how do I activate the personal power that I need to, go after what I want to go after? All of these different things. How do I gain clarity? That's your third eye. sometimes the real issue is you don't know what you want, right? So sometimes it's about actually the first step of manifesting is just, clearing out obstructions to really knowing what you want. So there's a lot of layers to manifesting that you can do
But
chakra work around.
I think also what you want changes throughout your lifetime too.
It does for sure. Yeah. And I'm a big believer in focusing on what do you want to feel? Like, what do you need more joy in your life? Do you need more prosperity? Do you need more? And really focusing on that. And then, okay, I think my path to that is this career change or this move or this new business. But as you execute that, staying fluid with, you try things and maybe it works first time out, maybe it doesn't, but staying fluid. And that is part of chakra work as well, being able to be fluid, co-create with the universe as opposed to just manifest.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Um, your specialty is with women, or do you work with everyone as well?
I work with men as well. I would say my practice is probably 75% women because my book is Chakra Empowerment for Women, and I have focused a lot on women's energetics, women's life transits. We talked about pregnancy, but perimenopause and menopause is another big life change that I work with a lot of women on. But I do have quite a few male clients and many over the years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is amazing. I appreciate all the work that you've done and you're doing and
Thank
taking
you.
the time to come here and share this. You have a lot of valuable information.
So thank you, Brittany. It's great to meet you too. And I will be sending you all the support that I can, that there is a breakthrough in your own healing process.
I really appreciate that. I
If
love
that
it.
got pulled out of you today. Yeah.
It was great meeting you. I really appreciate
It
it.
was
And
great meeting you
yeah,
too. Thank you very much.
we'll
And good
talk
luck.
as always. Stay magical, my friends.
The Zarlequan Indieverse.